Are you wondering what it means to actually create a business that you love, that is a beautiful business, that is in alignment with you, with your purpose, with your passion, that feels like it is you, even more of you embodied in this business? My guest today is Courtney Thompson of Blooming Kitchen Co., and you are not going to want to miss our conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm so excited for this episode. This is coming on, this is my second to last podcast episode. And I was at an event where Courtney was co-hosting, and I was watching her in all of her magnificence in her zone of genius, and I was like, we have to do a podcast before I leave for France. So I want to welcome a very special, very heartfelt welcome to Courtney Thompson with Blooming Kitchen Co. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you so much, Sari. Thank
Oh
you,
my
thank you, thank you. I'm
gosh.
so happy to be here. It's very fun and just so grateful. So thank
Yes.
you.
One of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on is because the last podcast I did was all about creating a more tapping into your intuition and getting out of your head and like really creating that beautiful, delicious business. And like I said, when I saw you, when you were talking to the group and you were just in your zone of genius and everything, I was like, we got to have this conversation because I love that. I feel like you are finally hitting your stride and you are trusting yourself and believing in yourself and going into that zone of genius. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch as your
Thank
coach.
you.
But let's go back. We were actually, before we started recording, I kind of was explaining it. It's almost like you've had these acts, these three acts of your business so far, with
Yep.
many more to come. But why don't you take us back to Courtney? I don't know what, maybe 5 years ago, like you
Oh
and an
yeah.
idea, you cultivating
Uh,
your idea. So act one being the pre-business, pre like really getting serious about it.
Ooh, there's so many ways we could go with this one, but I'm like picturing myself in that moment where I was like, okay, this is happening. This It was like a gentle whisper of like, I really want to do something different. And I was sitting, well, a lot had happened like in my personal life before this moment that I speak about. But um I was like burnout. I had like gone through lots of relationship things, was like really transforming into a new like chapter in my life, and it felt very heavy, very scary. And at the same time, I was in the like, top of my career. I'm managing a team of other food service personnel throughout the mountains in Colorado and loving it. But there was like this undercurrent of like burnout and misalignment. And I didn't know, I was like, why don't I feel like totally fulfilled, right? Like, I had all these skills and these ideas, but I was like constantly feeling like it just wasn't fully me.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on my patio in Glenwood Springs is where I was living at the time. I was sitting on my patio. It's a great spot right on the river, very lovely spot. And I just was journaling. This was at like a time in my life where I really started to do some inner work. A lot had gone on in my personal life that's really 180 like my whole life. So I was doing a lot of inner reflection, inner work. This is during COVID. We had like so much time, I feel like, to a lot of us to do this. And I feel like a lot of us went through that like rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, all this stuff that I now like am aware about myself. But what do I do with
Yeah.
all of this information? And that was really, I think, I was journaling and my mind just kept going back to what really made me feel present and And I think just feeling that like out of balance, I was like, what makes me feel balanced? Like, what makes me feel the best version of myself? And that's when I'm slow and steady, and I've got nature I'm surrounded by, and I'm eating good food, and I'm taking care of myself. And I was in a point in my life where like I wasn't I really wasn't leaning into that. And I was aware of it, but like, what am I going to do about it? Right. And for me, edible flowers was something that I was always intrigued by. And I quickly realized that edible flowers for me was like that catalyst of bring me into the present moment. So yes, I knew that I wanted to do something. I think that same day I sat on that patio for like 5 hours on my laptop just typing out like this whole business idea of like edible flowers. And I wanted to produce my background being like product development, food science, dietetics, and working in the food industry my whole career. But I was like, I want to produce my own products and it's going to be nasturtium pesto and it's going to be great. I'm going to do this whole line of product. And so that's what it was born out of. That was kind of like the moment when everything just started clicking, right? It was like all of a sudden I got really in tune with what does Courtney want, not just because, all the things that I have done. And I don't know, how do I want to say that? Like, what does Courtney really, really want? What makes me feel like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is aligning with me? What is a success can look one way, but what does it feel like inside? Does it feel kind of like icky? Because that's kind of how I was feeling, was like, this is
And you were
great, but like,
very successful too. So
yeah,
it's like when you actually have the success, you're like, wait, this isn't it.
yeah, this is success, but like, I can't keep this up. It was like lots of like, when I say like masculine in this like setting, it's like masculine meaning like perform, you're go, go, go. It's like never rest for the wicked. It's like, what have you done for me today? It's yeah, I'm in performance mode constantly. I'm in production mode constantly. And I was like, there's got to be more to life. I feel like I'm missing out on so much and missing out on myself, right? Like I was like over drinking, like just it was just not taking care of myself at all.
Yeah.
And, I had to pivot. Something had to change. Um, and I knew that I needed balance and I needed to figure out, okay, what's the opposite of that masculine energy? It's slow, it's flowy, it's like it's
It's
literally like
nourishing,
it's
right?
nourishing. And at the time I was living right on the river. So like it's so easy to like, you know, okay, if you're in a river, right, and you're fighting the current, like
Yeah.
you're gonna go down the river either way. If you fight that current, you're giving up so much energy just by fighting the current versus just surrendering and trusting and letting yourself go and flowing down that same river. You're gonna get to the
Mhm.
same spot, but you can do it in such a easeful way. And I was fighting the current that time in my life. And I was scared to go into all the dark, scary places, like our shadows, to do a lot of that work. And then once I got there, I realized, oh, it's not that scary. And I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to start making moves to do something that feels better to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Put myself first, take care of myself, because it could either be selfish or selfless. And in this time, it was like really understanding what that meant and slowing down and recontrolling and grabbing the reins of my own life felt a lot better. So,
Mm. Yeah. Sometimes we need to be selfish to like save our, it's that put your mask on first. Like we got to save you first before you can help
gosh,
anybody else. So,
I think you had even said that at one of our calls, Siri. I think, it's funny. Right before I sat down, I remember you. I was like, I have to bring that up because you said something, and I still hold on to it to this day. And you're like, we have to put the life vest on you before we have to worry about anything else. Like, and I remember that was when I was like peak burnout. And that wasn't even actually the first time you and I had talked that I was in that burnout, right? And this was before I left corporate America, all these things. So
yeah.
just for those of you listening, I had, Sarah gave me all this great advice. I fought it like, fighting the current in the river and didn't put my life jacket on. And then I finally like hit that moment where I was like, oh, I need a life jacket big time. And yeah, I need to do something different and start taking care of myself. What does that mean though, right? Like setting boundaries was one of the biggest ones for me, of others, but for myself too. So
Yourself. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think giving yourself permission to play in what if I were to create a business, what would that be? And you and I got introduced through a mutual friend. You also worked for Whole Foods Market for a time, and Rob Allen, who was also at Whole Foods, introduced us, and he said, I think Sari might be able to help
Yeah.
you because you had lots of ideas, you were exploring, you were playing in it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my what I think was going on is that you were like in the fun play, but the doing of it.
Yes. Yes.
The
I was
execution of it was
in,
pretty scary.
it was. It really was. I had this beautiful idea in my head, but how do I take all of this and put it on paper? Like I need the roadmap. I do not and it's funny because I was consulting, whether it be restaurant groups or like other startup like producers. But like then I go to do it and I'm like, it's like you glitch and you're like, what now that I'm in that seat, am I going to take my own advice? And I needed to take everything that was in my head and be like, okay, how do I do it? That simple thing. Like, I think it was, I mean, just even things with setting up the LLC, all of those, like, it just felt like such a big deal. Like,
Right.
everything felt like life or death. It was like, if you picture it like from a scale, like my cortisol at that time in my life was like all the way at 10. And so anytime you introduce something new to me, it just felt like a 10. Everything felt like a 10 and scary and so scary. And um, I needed some comfort. But with that, for me, was like structure. I needed structure. I needed like, tell me exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And like, how do I
Yeah.
take it from a conceptual, beautiful thought to how do we bring this to reality?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think that's one of my gifts is like both the coaching itself and recognizing when it's like, is this really a strategy thing or is this a limiting belief or some, an emotional thing that's getting in the way? But then not just sitting in the let's process our feelings, but also giving you, here's the most important next three things to do. Go do those things. And here's
yes,
how you
and I
do
needed
them.
that.
Yeah.
And I totally needed it because it was. And I think for me, so much of it was I think there was a lot of like emotional processing for me at the time because so much was going on. But then also it was the limiting belief side of it. And I don't think I even really realized it was limiting belief until like later on in like act three.
Yeah, yeah.
Like closer to now where I'm like, oh, I see that now. But yeah, I think it was like this form of what we talk about. It's like upper limiting myself
Yeah.
or like some form of like self-sabotage where it's like I see this beautiful life and I can dream about it. But like, am I going to allow myself to go there or am I going to just try to get in my own way? And you were really good about being like, nope, we're going to remove that obstacle. See how easy that was? Like I left a call and I go do those three things and I'm like, okay, that took like, why did I make that such a big deal? Like I constantly was doing that to myself. Like,
Because your brain's
uh,
an a-hole and it loves to
yes.
complicate things and add in all this drama and make it mean something about you that doesn't need to mean.
Yes.
But
Yep.
what I love, yeah, so the like act one, you had this beautiful idea and when you were talking over this last weekend, I love that you were sharing the story of like the journey of the business because when we first started meeting, you had, I mean, first of all, congratulations just on being like you
Oh,
actually took the leap to invest in coaching and you were like, this is scary, but I'm like, this isn't happening if I
yeah.
don't do this. Like, I
Yeah.
really, you believed in your idea enough to make that investment. And then it's, but you came in with a very pretty rigid set of like, this is how the business is going to be, right? This is my
Yes.
idea. So do you want
Yes.
to, I think it's fun to like explore the evolution. We talked
Huh?
about this, this is a journey of your business and that it's not linear and just like a river, right? I love that metaphor.
Mhm.
It's like, it's not a straight line. You go
Yes.
around and in and out. And
Yes.
so the very first iteration of the business, so maybe just talk about that because it'll
yeah,
be fun to talk about how it's evolved over time.
absolutely. Yeah, so actually, I think, it's like, it's funny because I said I started in Glenwood, but actually I was in Palisade when I first started working with. I was like right on Peach in Maine. It was like a cute little spot in Palisade. And I was always going to the farmers markets on Sundays. And I ended up meeting these two gentlemen who were doing microgreens. And so I started working with them. I was like, I really want to start growing edible flowers, but I need enough edible flowers to make pesto. Because remember, I was going to make the nasturtium pesto. I was like dead set on this. It's going to be what it is. And so I started in Palisade, working with them, and yeah, and then when I like life continues on, and I'm like, all right, I find myself pivoting to like a new relationship, like really leaning in like personal life, like trusting new scenarios for things, and I decided to, and like my sister just had a baby. I really am like missing family at this point. I want to get closer to family. So all the things, right? So I make my way. I'm starting to move. I end up in Glenwood and then from Glenwood back into Denver. And I remember you and I were talking about the business. It was very like still fresh at that point, like trying to make it work by me traveling to Palisade to pick up the products, drive them back to Denver, do farmers markets in Denver, but also do farmers markets potentially in Palisade. And like also while working a full-time job, like, and I was so set on it. I'm like, yes, this is gonna work. And then like, and I was
I think you
like,
were
and
about
I
to
think we,
sign some
oh yeah.
production contract, like this big
Mhm.
contract with somebody
Yes.
to grow all these flowers.
And a price point that didn't make sense. And I didn't take into consideration like the gas and like everything else that went because I was just so set on like it has to be this way or it's no way. Right? Like it's either this way that I planned and that's at that point what I thought was going to be successful like for my business. And if it wasn't that, then it wasn't going to be a success. And I'm thinking like, and I remember I think you and I had several calls and you just like, thank you. You were so patient with me. You're like, I think there were several calls where we're just like, okay. And like you would just get me to, I think what's beautiful about your coaching series, like you really get people to hear it themselves say what they need to hear. So it's like I don't know how you do it, but it's like a magician. It really is amazing. But I remember being like, oh, this isn't gonna work, is it? Like, I don't have time to drive to Palisade.
I
Shelf
think I just
life.
had to say like, how are you going to do this?
Yeah, like I think it like and at that time I think it came down to like I had to see the math that to know that like I wasn't gonna make and there was no money. I was gonna end up losing money and be stressed out driving to and from constantly to Palisade. And what I realized it was like I was trying to hold on to Palisade and
Hmm.
this chapter in my life that was like very close to home with Palisade. And like I had always had this dream of a little as a little girl, like I'm gonna grow products from the farm to table and I'm going to produce them and I'm going to do it in Palisade. And so like when I end up in Palisade, like I think I was just like, yeah, I was honed in on making that dream a reality and I didn't want to let it go. And then yeah, I quickly realized like it just wasn't going to work.
And
And
even the product itself, I was like, so this product is very cool. And for those of you who don't know what a
yes.
nasturtium is, because I didn't know, it's a
Yeah,
flower.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
let me Google that while she's telling me.
What in the world is this thing? Like,
But even the
yeah.
product itself was very challenging. So it's like what I saw was like an incredible beautiful idea that has so many different possibilities, because that's what I do as a coach is I'm neutral and I can just be like, I'm like, oh my gosh, amazing. We could do so many things. But, you get so focused on like, it's got to be this product and on Palisade and, farmers markets and this
Like
way. And it's like,
community and yeah.
and who knows, Courtney, maybe chapter 6 is like you're back in Palisade, like in
Yeah.
some way. We don't know. But so it's like
Right.
that part of the dream doesn't have to die. It's
Right.
just that doesn't have, it's like you don't need it all at once. Like a book would be
No.
no fun if you knew if you got the
I know. And
ending.
I was literally trying, yeah, and I was totally trying to finish the book before like the first chapter was even like put on paper.
Yeah.
And so it's so fun. And so I think we very quick and I what we ended up doing at that time, if you remember, it was like, okay, and smart of us at the time too, because now looking back, I'm like, thank goodness that's what we did was I ended up having a hard conversation with the growers and I was like, I can't do this, and it was just like, but once I did it, oh my gosh, the amount of relief because I think I was scared of like letting them down
Yeah.
more even than like letting myself down. I was
People
scared of letting
pleasing,
them
right? Those
down.
those
Like, yeah, people
boundaries, right?
pleasing. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. And like, what if you just say no? Like, you might piss them off for like for a minute, but it's gonna be fine at the end of the day. Like, life moves on. And so I did it, and that was like my first. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Like, and they're still going, they're still thriving. Like, so it's like that was my first moment of like, okay, I can trust myself that like it doesn't have to be perfect in order for it to be successful, first of all, right? It can change and ebb and flow. And so then I very quickly was like, okay, well, who's gonna grow the flowers, right? It was like, I think this was like early spring, and it was like farmers markets were coming, and I think at that time I probably had already signed up for farmers markets in Denver. And so we're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to grow flowers? So I started like, I'm like, okay, I'll grow some at my house. So I got on that really quickly, but then I started looking for growers in the Denver community. Um, so yeah, and then that first year, it's like, I
And I
do it.
connected you with
And
one that had potential, but like
yeah,
it's really hard to talk to growers in the spring.
yeah, they're like,
Like,
what are you
hey, can
talking
you
about?
grow all
Like,
my flowers for me? And they're like, we have a million other things doing.
yeah,
And farmers and growers are notoriously bad at communicating and dropping the ball, and we love them, but it's just part of the deal. It's kind of like working with co-packers as well.
yeah.
They're just not as invested in your business as you are. And I kept saying, like, why don't you grow them? We don't need a lot. We're not making nasturtium pesto.
Yeah. Like at this point, we're just selling flowers or like, can we do something, right? And it was just like, let's just sell flowers. And at first I
We
was like, let's sell
transitioned to,
bouquets of
oh,
flowers that were
say that
edible.
again?
We did like, we went from the nasturtium pesto. They're like, okay, let's just sell bouquets
Oh,
of
okay.
edible flowers. That's what I wanted to do.
But
And
eventually, I talked you into just staying under cottage food, not making, I mean, you were working full time at a very
yes,
demanding job. So
very.
and you knew you weren't ready to leave that. And so as a coach, I'm always keeping that in mind. And I'm thinking like, what's the best possible way we can, get to the next act of this life, this
Yeah.
business? And in the easiest way possible, the one that's going to cost the least, use the least amount of time, but allows you to like feel like you're making progress and that you're getting some momentum. So I finally convinced you to like, let's stay under cottage food. Let's
Yes.
let's do some markets. And so you launched, let's see, because do we meet in fall of 22 and then you launched in 23? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Yeah, and
Okay.
ooh, it's funny because I'm pretty sure it was like the week of my first market. I was like, that's when I was like, click, I'm gonna make salt. And I literally just like piled a bunch of stuff in a bowl and like, looks great. Like, you know, like, yes, I
I
can sell
love
this
it.
all day. Put a little some clamshells, we're good to go. And then it was like, Oh, I love tea. I love having tea with my mom. My mom loves tea. Like tea is such a like I just love it so much. I was like, tea, I'm gonna do a line of tea. Okay. And then cocktail sugar, like that's so fun and it's, like something we can talk about and use the flowers in. So it was like those three things, right? Very different than what they are today, but it was like I literally think I produced them like a couple weeks, like a week probably before that first market.
Yeah.
But I showed up and I did it
And you
anyway.
did. And you got labels printed and like
Mhm.
and what one thing I do really want to give you props for because I know you're a perfectionist and I'm sure you had a vision in your
Yes.
mind, but like we created your logo on Canva. We like worked it together. We created labels
Yeah.
on Canva. Like you were willing to do a lot of B minus work. And I think part of
Yeah.
it is like you had committed to coaching, so you were really in it. And then you committed to farmers markets. So you were like,
Yeah.
I need some product to sell.
Like, oh gosh, now we're actually doing this thing that I got myself into. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
did.
I mean that's when constraints can be a really good thing if you've like kind of put in some things that force you to act, right? I mean if you didn't have
Yeah.
a market, you'd be like, well, whatever, right? Like
Right. But I'm pretty
but
sure you were like, well, get on some markets because the clock is ticking, and if you're gonna do it this year, you got to get booked. So, right, I think that was like the driving force was like commit to the market, and then now I know I have something I'm working towards, and then it was like the labels weren't perfect, and I remember like that was so stressful for me. Like I wanted all the things to be like I think it was even the website at the same time that we were working on. And I'm like, I wanted it to be perfect, but it was like you just kept telling me like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, and finally like letting myself just show up at those first markets with just something. And like that fueled me so much because I was like, I finally gave myself permission to just show up. And again, like didn't have to be perfect to be successful because it was successful in the fact that I showed up. Like,
yeah.
whoa, I actually am here. In those moments, like pinching myself, like, look, I actually did it. Like, I actually built a website, I actually made little like labels and put it in, made product, and people are buying it. And so yeah, I think so much of it is having those, yeah, like having those ways where you can't really back out on yourself, those commitments.
Exactly. Like you would really it's not just disappointing people, but there would be it's not that we
Yeah.
can't, as we'll talk about, but we,
Yes. Right.
and I think you wanted to sign up for a whole bunch, and I was like, how about we like look at your actual calendar for the summer, and I think you just had like 6 markets or something like that
Yeah.
first
I
season.
dialed it back. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it allowed you to get your feet wet. It allowed you to feel like I'm making progress, I'm winning. It allowed you to get feedback from customers, right? I mean, I remember I was fortunate because we both live in Denver and I got to go to your very first market. It was raining, but it's
Pouring.
like there's just something really amazing when you actually make that first sale and you're like, oh, people want what I have. I'm in business, then you like things start to speed up a lot. So, I call that definitely like act two. You started doing your markets. You came up to my winter market, telling you put together your teas and the pressed flowers, the salt and the sugar.
Yep.
During the summer, you had the fresh flowers as well. But
Yeah. Yeah. I also had like the honey, like the little honey cubes for your tea I was doing at the
yep,
time. And
yeah.
yeah, so it's like act two.
Okay, so
Ooh.
you launched the business. You were like, I'm doing this. And you're working full time, but you were showing up for the business for markets. You were talking, I know we'd had conversations about wholesale and you wanted to get more into that aspect. Um, and then you decided to take an even more demanding job.
Yeah. Thinking, oh gosh, thinking, trying to
Very,
like,
very demanding. And you signed up. Did you sign up for like a lot more markets in the summer or what did you
okay, well,
sign up?
here's, yeah, like, so because at this time I like moved to Denver and I was like for a full year, I was living in Denver, but traveling
That's
through the
right.
mountains. So like going to Telluride, like going to Telluride, going to Buena Vista, going to Aspen, going to all these places. So I was constantly on the road and doing the business. So it was just, you can imagine why I was burnt out, folks. Like it was a lot. And yeah, and so I decided to like take, well, actually, I was like, I can't do it anymore. I quit. Right. Like to the corporate job. I was like, I quit. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I literally gave my notice.
I
And they're
say,
like,
how many times did we get
well,
you ready to quit?
yeah, I did. I know. And like, so I had that conversation with them, like, okay, I quit. And they're like, well, what about this other role? Yeah, okay. Like, and it was, what about this other role? And it's this client. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes, because this could really catapult my success with my business. If I get that account, it's like FaceTime with them. Awesome. Take the new role. It's like triple the work. Although I'm working from home now, but now it's like, ugh, I just went from one stress to like a whole new stress. And I remember you being like, "What? I thought you were going to say no." And I did it anyway. I did. Honestly, guys, I had to go through it. I had to realize that
You
like,
did.
and the reason I took it was not necessarily, it was comfort. It was comfort for me. I felt very safe, very comfortable. It's what I've known my entire career was like, well, I'm used to this hustle. It's familiar hustle, even though I'm miserable hustle, right? Like I'm doing the thing,
There was some
but
ego too, right?
oh,
Like, who
total
is
ego.
this
Yeah, with
client?
this client, like look, this book, what it could do for me, and like this validation factor coming in. And I definitely had to learn my lesson that like and I also felt this sense of like again go back to the people pleasing. I felt like I couldn't say no because I was like so far into like my commitment with them on it already that I couldn't say no to the role. So I say yes, and then I'm working like tenfold what I was already working. Yeah, and my business started like slowly, like I had no choice but to like start putting that on the back burner, and that felt so icky to me because I just worked so hard and I was so proud and excited of the things that Sarah, you and I like got to work on and built and brought to life literally
Yeah.
from an idea, a thought. And but I kept just kept going, kept working with the client, and then yeah, I think I just, yeah, I hit a wall. I totally hit a wall and was like, can't do it anymore. And I'm going to set a date. And I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And I
I
did.
remember it just happened that I was in the area of your farmers market and I hadn't seen you for quite a while and you signed up for a few dates last summer.
Yep, yep.
Um and hadn't seen you. You definitely like got a little MIA, right? Because you were working
Hmm.
this crazy job and it was definitely taking a lot from you
Yeah.
and you just happened to be at the market and I saw you and you were like, we need to talk.
Yeah, it was
I was like,
heavy.
this is we were meant to reconnect. And as
Yeah.
a coach, I just it's not always easy, but I never take those things personal. And I feel like, you're like, this is really gonna help me with the business later on. It's opening doors. And I'm like,
I
okay.
was trying to sell you like a sale,
I
like
was
the
like,
sales lady I like.
cool. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's true. And sometimes my job is just to allow and say, I think, and actually, I think the beauty, the gift, and what I'd love people to come away with that is like, it's okay. Like, you're still in business. Like, this is
Yeah,
long. This isn't a
yeah,
like 1 year thing. And sometimes we get off the path, and that's like, you're okay and you're better for it in many ways. And sometimes that's what needs to happen. And there's no timeline on this stuff.
right. Yeah, and it felt, and I think, yeah, I was, making good money. It's cush in that regard. I you get all the validation, the ego, all of those things, but then it was like the idea that I didn't have enough or that I wasn't going to be enough to take it to that level to like replace the thing that I'm currently doing. Felt like such a heavy weight that it was like just kept me there, just kept me there. But yeah, I just, you kind of hit that point where you're like, oh no, enough's enough. Like it's starting to be where I'm walking away so much, like I'm putting so much distance between me and my business and this thing that I love and this outlet that's like so nourishing and healthy for me when I'm in it, that why am I choosing this alternate route? I don't have to choose it, right? Like, and I remember I went to Sedona. I would go to Sedona like every year for my birthday in April. I went to Sedona in April that year and like was so stressed out, like I could hardly be present because, like, I got the client, I had just started that role. And then I actually went again in the fall for a very dear friend, their wedding. And that trip was when that was like that was the moment because there was such this heavy thought and reflection for like an entire week, just like me hiking in the desert by myself, like journaling, meditating, all the things, and realizing. I mean, I think you and I even had a coaching call during that week
Yeah, we did.
in my Airbnb, and you got me to picture future me.
Yeah.
What like and the life, like how do I want my day to look? And if I was honest, I was like, well, how I want my day to look is nothing like it looks right now. Like, and that was the moment where I was like, whoa. And there was this whole reflection around balance on that trip and leaning into femininity and like more of like this feminine. So again, I go back to like being like it's easeful, it's flow, it's powerful, but it's more nurturing. It's
Yeah.
softer. And what feels that way for
Expansive.
me? Guess what? My business, and the
Hmm.
things that I'm dreaming up. And so I couldn't deny that. I couldn't put that dream on like on mute anymore. It was no longer like that whisper that I talked about at the beginning. It was like more of a loud, like this, it's time and you have everything that you need. There was like this inner knowing, like I have everything that I need. And I gotta stop telling myself that I don't and just get out of my own way. And like I think it's like I came back and like made the decision and did some more coaching, got really involved in coaching with like financial coaching and different things, which really helped because so much of what I realize now was tied to this like whole like there's so much belief around financials and uncovering like where your fears lie within that or where your beliefs lie within that. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
fears, it can be good things too. And really, so I think that was like like a 2 month process, and then a couple more
Yeah.
months goes
That
by,
was
and then
all
I
in like
finally,
service of getting ready. We were like, okay, we're on a plan. We're making a plan and getting you ready. And some of it, yeah, I mean, finances is real, right? You still have bills to
yeah,
pay. You still have
yeah,
things you need a certain amount of money coming in.
yeah,
And I mean, I get that as a I'm a solo female entrepreneur and it can be
yeah,
really scary. And we grow up as women, especially with all these really, really challenging money beliefs often about safety and security and what's enough and are we going to be able to take care of ourselves and also like hiding in the sand and not wanting to look at it. And so I love that you invested
yeah,
in that financial coaching with the amazing Robin and we just got you ready and to a place where you're like, I'm doing this.
yeah.
This is
It was
happening.
that, and then it was networking. I started
Yeah.
doing more networking.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I was like, you got to come out more. You're like you're in your little
Yeah,
bubble in your corporate job. And I
yeah,
remember I was actually thinking about it because you came to the Elevate group that I did with the
yeah.
chocolate tasting,
Hmm.
mushroom chocolates,
Yep.
and I think that was a big moment for you as well, and the connections and all the things that came from that.
Just giving myself permission to talk about it.
Mm.
right? To like own it and start shifting this like identity of like, I am, well, we keep saying corporate job, US Foods. Like, I am US Foods. Like, this is right to like, I am a business owner and like being proud to say that and like being excited, giving myself permission to be excited to say that. And like, hey, this is what I'm really passionate about. Does it resonate with you? And then I was like, people are like, what? Tell me more. And it's like, I didn't have my elevator pitch figured out or anything,
No, but you were
but
just
like,
talking about it and you were so joyful. And I just remember you telling me like what a powerful experience that was to be around other women and, we're having an experience around food and you're talking about what you're doing and people are getting
Mhm.
excited and seeing the vision that's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. And yeah.
So then we move into, I would say, into Act Three, which is like, okay,
Yes.
you quit your job at
Ugh,
the end of
I quit my
2024,
job.
which
Yes.
was super scary.
Oh
But
my God.
we also work so much on the vision of what this, beautiful business was going to be
Mhm.
and what you wanted to create. And you set yourself up financially with some safety and security,
Yep.
and you had conversations with your partner and,
Yep.
right? Like you didn't just be
Mhm.
like, peace, I'm out, right? Like,
It felt like that. It was like a peace I'm out, but it was also like it was definitely methodical because we had been doing the work. We have definitely been doing the work, and it felt like I don't think it's like having a child. Like I don't know that there was any moment that I was gonna be like I am ready. Like
yeah,
right
yeah.
now, it was more just like I had to rip the band-aid off. I had to burn the ship. Like jump off the ship and then burn it. So I like would just
You
give
did.
myself the ability to swim to shore safely. It was fine. Everything was fine.
And you also
Um,
gave yourself some security by you applied for a part-time job that was in more
yes.
of that creative food space and you got that. And so, I think that you were at like there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to burn the boats and like and then just be like,
Right?
"Okay, baby business, perform for
Yeah.
me." Right? It's like
No,
yeah, you
right.
had a due date of like I'm leaving my corporate job and you held to that, but you also were like, "Okay, well, what if I worked this part-time job?" And
Yeah. I eased
you
myself out of it, right? Like, and that felt really good. I needed that. It felt very nurturing for me and what I needed. Like, I needed to be seen that, like, it's okay to feel like, because I think two things were happening. It was like the fear of the financial, but it was the fear of also like staying busy and that being what's productive and that being what's successful, because that's what I've been used to. Like that busy is successful, right? That hustle is successful. So it was like a nice, like calm way to ease myself into the next phase. That I had some stability to go from like 150 miles an hour to like zero felt like, "Wah." So going from like 150 to like, like I don't know, is a very gradual pace. It was very slow and intentional and gave me a lot of space to also process.
Mhm.
Not only like getting my business ready and like but allowing myself space to like wake up with the sun, like, and have tea and
To do some of the things we talked about in Sedona of like what would a perfect day be like? What would your,
yeah,
right?
I started to live that. And it was like, you kind of have to pinch yourself, but giving it, and then amazing things start happening, right? Then all of a sudden, like my mind is free enough to start really dreaming and aligning. So I'm networking more. I'm journaling up things more. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's no longer just about me growing and selling flowers. Like, how do I help people feel this connection to nature and slowing down themselves that like they can do a version of this in their life. They can have this balance, right? That was my goal. Is like, how do we like, because everybody else is feeling this like pendulum swing of like they're on one side right now of like, or maybe they're not aware of it, but they're feeling like, why do I feel burnout? Why do I feel like all this heaviness? like, how do I get over here? You can have both. You can have the balance, but it's like being intentional about slowing down amongst chaos, right? Or amongst just like a busy workday. Maybe it's like, and I think I talked about this at the group the other day, was like I can have my bagel and schmear and run out the door. Or I can have my bagel and schmear with some flowers on it and like take that 2 seconds to like appreciate the meal I'm having, even if I'm still walking out the door with the bagel in my hand. I want to give this experience to other people. Like, this is more than now all of a sudden I'm selling flowers. This is like, how do I gift this whole idea to like, to slow down and connect and like feel what I'm experiencing from working with flowers with other people. And then it's like, okay, then it's like more of like a lifestyle thing. And then now I'm like, oh, we can do this through events, right? And so just the more that I allowed myself to align with maybe didn't what didn't necessarily look good on paper, but felt really good to me. The more that I'm learning to trust myself by surrendering, letting go of control, trusting, there's so much like, I don't know, I think like vitality.
Mhm.
You have to be so alive and present in the moment in order to trust, because again, it takes you to surrender into the moment.
Yeah.
And for me, flowers do that. And that is ultimately the goal with now the events Gather and Bloom, is to bring people into that space, even if it's just for that hour,
Yeah.
you know, um, just an hour or
Hmm.
just that moment. They get to put something on their salad or their bagel in my previous
Or sipping their
description.
tea or their
Or sipping.
chocolate, all the things. And I think so much of us, for the food business success podcast is like so much of many of us have had these beautiful experiences that got us into food, right? And you talk about your time in Palisade, which was probably very formative. I know you also spent time in France. You have a culinary degree. Like
Yep.
you have loved food and you've had all these amazing experiences, right? And then you're trying to translate that into a product. And and while people might buy the product, it's not like you can give them like it's not like they take in all of those experiences that led you to
Yes.
that product.
Yes.
And what I loved, and I think the um, Jen with Moksha Chocolate was who we were. She does these private house parties, and so just having that experience, right, bringing other women together and men, right, bringing people together, having this experience, learning about it, slowing down, connecting. Like food is such this connector. And so it seems such a natural evolution in this next act of your business to go more in to say, yes, I have a product that you can buy, but let me actually help you create, like, let's sit in the experience of it first and
Okay.
slowing down and let me teach you and about all the beautiful, amazing things that flowers offer us, which I'm learning so much about. It's so beautiful. But it's like you're giving people such an opportunity to create connection and
Yeah.
to slow down.
Yeah. And it's definitely it's built, it's where like food and nature and nourishment and beauty like all come together. And like, I don't know, I think edible flower products and like these immersive events that I'm now doing, it is the place where it helps people reconnect. And that can be to nature, that can be to themselves, and that can be to, whatever is calling them in that space that's needed, right? It's about like slow, like yeah, it's about slow growth, deep nourishment, and joy. So that when they take those products home, they've now aligned themselves to the intention behind like how they can use that product in their day to day. It's not just like here, take the product and like go home and like good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you know, it's I think it's deeper than that. I think what am I trying to say? It's deeper than that. It is
it's this extension, right, of the experience.
Yes.
The product
Yeah.
becomes an embodiment of the experience. And
Yeah.
I know for me, going, you did this beautiful brunch and bloom last weekend and amazing 5 course brunch, and it was just like you brought to life. Like I've never, I mean, I've tried your flowers before, like the fresh ones, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I kind of get it. I don't know, it feels weird eating a flower." But now
Yeah.
that I've like had more of the education and the like seeing you put it all together on food and hearing about all the benefits, and I took some of those oh shoot, what's the yellow ones?
The calendula.
Calendula. Yes, I took some of
Because
those
you're a
home.
you're a Leo, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes,
I've been
yes.
putting them on my like putting some petals on my salad and even on my oatmeal. And it's like this immediate trigger of like, let's actually
Ah,
like
yeah.
taste my food for just a second.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like,
I give myself permission to just,
yeah.
in this moment, be present with what I'm doing.
And
Right?
even like your salts, like putting them on, chocolate or on actually I brought it to I gave one to my sister, and we were at a Mexican restaurant, and we had like
I
the
love that.
tableside guacamole, and I was telling her about this event, and I gave her a salt, and she's like, "Well, open it up." And we like put some on our guacamole right
Yes.
there. And like I was like, "Look how pretty it is."
Yes, avocado toast just got better, you know? It's so
Exactly.
true. And it
And
is, it's
so,
like,
good.
yeah. No, it's like it shifts from, back to like it shifts from me needing to be the one that is selling the flowers to people, but all of a sudden now I'm like, no, I want to, it's more about like teaching people and allowing people to experience it for themselves.
Hmm.
Because then there's so many different ways. Everybody's going to be in their different, like you said, like you were like intimidated even to eat the flowers, like, okay, I don't really see the point, right? And it's like, so how do I get through? Then there's going to be people who are like, oh my gosh, I love what you're doing. I grow edible flowers in my own garden. I wish I had more recipes to use. So what I'm trying to do is meet everybody kind of where they are in the journey,
Hmm.
and it to be where it is like you're taking down the like the obstacles that are getting in the way of like it being approachable, and like it can be something that we incorporate into our lives every day, that we
Yeah.
can have these slow small intentional moments that bring us joy and pleasure. And like, why not? Why are we like stuck on it's got to be, fast and efficient? It can still be fast and efficient. Why can't it just also be beautiful?
And
Right.
beautiful.
So,
Yes. And help us slow
yeah.
down and just
Hmm.
appreciate, right? Have a lot of
Yeah.
gratitude, savor it. Um, I guess a couple quick things I want to really touch on. So I do remember, you were like, you had this vision of like the business of how you wanted to help people feel and the importance of slowing down and all of that. And then you would come sometimes and you'd be like, like amped up. And I'm like, okay, Courtney, you have to go first.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
This beautiful life that you're trying to help everybody
Yeah.
experience. Like, you're
Mhm.
like, dang it. I like, why do I have to go
Yes.
first? And I was like,
Yeah.
because
I
it's
have to put in
your
the
life.
work before I like tell people. Oh my gosh, I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday too. It's like, and that's still, and it's an everyday thing. And I guess what we're saying is, um, because I want to show up authentic. And again, it goes back to like allowing myself permission to show up authentic. And so what we're meaning by that is like living in a life that's intentionally slow and it can still be productive, and showing that using flowers as the catalyst, as the, kind of the actual thing that we're using to get that message across. But I have to embody that in my own life, right? And really kind of take the reins, and like life isn't happening to me. I am like I'm happening to life, like, but I can do it with intentionality, and I can have a slower paced, um, mindset and way about me, and it also not get in the way of being successful and
Yeah,
productive. And
absolutely.
so you're right. And but it's a daily thing, and it's so funny you say that because she kept saying you got to do the work yourself. And it was like, felt like, oh, well, why me? Why do I
Why do
have
I
to
have
go
to do it? I'm like, I don't
first?
know. You want to create the business. You want to show people
Yes.
how to do it, but it would
Yeah.
be inauthentic if you weren't also
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Yes.
live a life that way. And it's going to come through in your visuals and your energy and the emails you write, the social media you put out. And I think what, you're getting to a space where like if you don't do your meditation and
Oh
your
yeah.
morning time and,
Yep.
then things don't go as well. And
Yeah.
so
They don't go as
you,
well. I feel more like it's like that agitation. I'm t like tired. I'm burning out. Like I've overcommitted. All of a sudden, I'm like not in alignment. And so I do. I try to like intentionally have those slow mornings. Do things throughout the week that I'm intentionally putting towards myself. It might be like a nice, beautiful meal, and I like shut everything else down for that 30 minutes if that's all I have, 20 minutes if that's all I have, but it's like being intentional in that moment.
yeah,
I'm, getting out in nature, gardening more, doing things like today. I was just telling you I did aqua Zumba with my friend Karen and totally different, but it was, just something new for me that felt nurturing. I was taking care of myself. I'm prioritizing my own well-being while also running my business.
yeah,
And the more that I stay in alignment with that, the better results that I'm getting in my business. I will also say the moment I start freaking out about something, let's say it's like, oh my gosh, I just tried to overnight this product to get here in time to help this customer with something else. And there's a weather delay. Right? As soon as I start spiraling, I'm like intentionally recognizing that in the moment, doing my best to be like, it's all going to work out.
right,
And like reshaping my mindset to not hone in on all the fears of things that haven't happened yet, but just trust that it's all going to work out. And guess what? Nine times out of 10, like, I don't even know why I freaked out.
right.
Like, I'm just
And it's
learning to
like,
trust, like, myself, God, the universe, like,
yeah, like,
whatever you believe
can
in
I do anything
there.
about
And
this or not? And if
yeah,
not, then I
and
gotta
letting
let
it
it go.
go
Yeah,
and letting it go.
yeah.
And it's giving myself permission to let it go.
And I
And
think we started this conversation about like getting more into out of your head and into more of your
mhm,
intuition, embodying it
mhm.
more. Although, if your head had its way, you would be in about what, 40 farmers markets this summer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When my head was trying to get in the way,
We had made all
I
these
signed up.
beautiful decisions about this event business and what it's going to be. And you like really envisioned it and you were like getting into it. And I was like, amazing, go run with that. And then our next coaching call, like, I don't know, 2 weeks
Yes.
later,
Yeah, I
you
was.
come with a list, a laundry list of everything that you need to do for these 3 or 4 farmers markets that you've applied
Mhm.
for like every weekend and multiple.
Every weekend. Multiple markets every weekend. And it's just me. Like, what I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hire all these people and I gotta do all these things. And I'm also gonna grow e-commerce and I'm gonna go wholesale and and it was that fear kicking in that like I want to do what's comfortable, what feels safe, because I was also scared of my own potential that, oh my gosh, something that feels so authentic in me and aligned and all these good things are flowing towards me, connections, things are feeling really easy, but it felt too good to be true, right? And so I start panicking and I'm like, oh my gosh, this can't be. I gotta just, oh my gosh, like what if I don't make money? Okay, well, I know I'm going to make money if I go to a farmer's market. So now I fill up my calendar. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, it's going to be super productive. But I went straight into like frantic energy mode, scarcity mode that like things aren't going to work out. So I try to control it. That was
Yeah.
me trying to control my own destiny as opposed to surrendering, letting it go, and trusting that what I am creating that feels really aligned to me is the right choice. Like, and it's going to work out and just continuing to like, so it's a muscle every single day. Cause you're right. We ended up, so what did I do?
I was
We
like,
came up with, we came up with a
okay,
scheme for all of the farmers market.
okay, like if this is really what we're doing, I'll help you with it. But where on
Oh,
earth most events take place on the weekends?
yes. Yes.
I
Events. So
thought
again,
we
so
were
I
doing
try to
an event company.
self-sabotage. I'm self-sabotaging myself right out the gate, seeing like, see, the events aren't going to work out. And it's like me future planning for my success to not work for the idea that I have about doing these events, because you're right, it will be all the events are going to be on the weekends. And now I've just blocked out my weekends. So obviously,
So
it's the
obviously the
same thing that I
events
did
was
with
never
taking
meant
the
to work.
job. And then the job took over like the new position at that job took over the ability for me to now be productive. So if I've constantly found myself recreating the same like upper limiting, like I don't know, behavior and
Yeah.
reeling it back in. And thank goodness I have Sari to like to have a good coach that knows me now that like you're doing it again, like you're self you're self-sabotaging. We're like, yeah, like why did you just do that? And
Because you were
then, we
basically
have to come
creating a
up.
whole new job for yourself
Yes.
in farmers markets. You were gonna have staff, there was flower girls, there was like
Yes.
not alone the growing and all the stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're gonna
Yeah.
hate this. Like you're gonna be
Yep.
hating your life.
Yes. Yes. And I knew it too. And it felt, ugh,
Yeah.
and it felt so stressful. And then I was like, I can't back out now. Again, people pleaser, being like, well, I can't now call them all and be like, I can't. And you're like, yeah, you can. And that's what you're gonna do. Like,
So
but we
we
came up
made
with
a
a really
plan.
good way. Sari's like, here's what, like figure out, dwindle them down. Maybe like you just totally overcommitted and blocked your own ability to be successful with the events, which is really what you want to do. And that really felt good to you. So
Yeah.
let's lean back into that space and call the farmers market. So I call them all and I'm like, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I can't do half of these. Like I can't even do a fraction of what I signed up for. I'm so sorry. And I thought they were gonna hate me and that I was gonna get like booted out of the market. No, they all were so kind and gracious. And they're like, no, it happens all the time. It's totally fine. And I think now I have like 10 total throughout the
Mm.
entire season that I'm going to be doing. It might be less than that. So I think it's like seven I'm going to be doing throughout the entire season. It's spread between Golden and South Pearl Street. And I think I have one in Fort Collins that I picked up as a drop-in. So it's
Amazing.
like that feels so good. And now I'm booking events. And guess what? The 2 weekends, ironically, that I book events are both weekends I actually have open because I didn't commit to a market on those 2 weekends.
And
So
it's super
again,
scary. I mean, I just want to applaud you. Like, I get it. And believe
mhm.
me, I do this stuff too. And that's why I have a coach that's like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? We just came up with a plan. But this is why it's so important to create a vision. I talked about that in last week's
Mhm.
podcast around using your intuition is like the vision that really emotional, that resonant vision of like, what is this beautiful business is what needs to guide our decisions. Because it's not that farmers markets are bad, it's that we want to use them with intentionality to support the vision, right? And so
Yeah.
now you have some peppered, salted throughout so that you can go and share about the events and
Yep.
teach people and expose them to your brand. But it's you know, it's a thoroughfare for them to get to know about the events as well as
Yes,
bring in some cash
exactly.
flow. But it's done
Yep.
with much more intentionality and not where all that was coming from was, yeah, fear and let me control it and what if this doesn't work? So let me just sabotage it ahead of time and say, well, it didn't work. Look at
Yes.
that. Right. Even though I didn't even give it a
Right.
chance. And so I applaud you for for
Thank
being
you.
willing to reel it back. And
Yeah.
now, like, and you started working with, and the other thing I want, I think is so important about your journey is your willingness to lean into connection. And I know, especially once you left the job, you were able to have more time. And I just, it's such a powerful way. And I think about, I mean, you went to one Spark meeting with
Yes.
Julie and you met Jeff and he introduced you to his partner, Kate, who's like, "Oh, I actually do plant starts and I help people grow flowers."
Yeah.
Like it was like, "What?"
And you and I, like, and it's funny because you were along the journey with me this whole time to realize, like, that's what I've been seeking this whole time is like trying to find somebody to like to build a team, but a team that just like
You're not
a
handing it
win-win,
off to
right?
somebody. You're
No, but a
in
win-win, like
collaboration with them.
yeah, like it helps her business, helps my business. It's a win-win now, and her and I have become friends, and I'm so grateful for that connection. And I've met several other people. Karen, she's helping with branding and really like powerful things going on with human design and me leaning into human design, now understanding so much of what goes on consciously and subconsciously with like the decisions I make, how I show up with the world. Bloom Collective with Ashley Rose and getting really in touch with like this feminine side and understanding like, just this more like empowering energy that I can have leaning into this, like again, back to that like flow and that intuition and trusting and like manifesting these ideas in a really safe space, bringing them from my head down like physically through my body. And what does that feel like? What does my intuition now feel like in my body? And then again, that just creates so much more of that trust. So you have connections with people, connections with yourself, and connections now to the thing that literally is filling you from the inside out. And then you start to like radiate and like things just start happening. And again, it just gets, then it's feels really easeful. And and beautiful. And yeah, so I think it's all the things that I want people to help them find through flowers. I'm finding through building the business surrounded around edible flowers. And that's
Yeah.
connection, it's moment, it's real connection with people. And with themselves and um, with things that bring them joy. So
Yeah,
whatever that may
that's such a
be.
beautiful example of letting your intuition, your internal guidance system lead, where you're getting your head out of the way and using your brain what it's for, meant to be for, of like, let me go evaluate my cost of goods sold, or let me write this process develop product, or you've been doing these events. We did a reinvention book launch and launch your business. And, I'm sure you had to like really think logical about timing and what do I need to bring and da da da, right? That's what your brain is for. But
Yes.
allowing this intuitive side, and if, the vision is connection and beauty and nourishing, like you have to embody it and you have to be
Yeah.
it and you got to go be willing to put yourself in rooms and start making connections and showing up and being vulnerable and showing up on social media. And I mean, it's just it's been such a joy. And I mean,
Thank
we're
you.
friends now for sure, but
Yes.
I'm just
Yes,
so
yes.
grateful to be your coach
Thank
and
you.
on this journey with you. I mean, I get like pretty emotional with you just because I it's such a change. And I just I like really believe that if I can help empower more women like you to follow their dreams and lean into their intuition, that's where change, like now you are helping me. You're helping all of us to slow down.
Thank you. Thank you, Sari. Oh,
Yeah.
thank
I
you.
don't normally cry on the podcast, but it's just this is where change happens, and this is me doing my zone of genius work and then helping you to live your dream and things that like yeah, it's scary and we don't know if it's going to work and but
Yeah.
there's many more chapters, there's many more acts for you, and it's not linear. And as long as you keep leaning into your self-trust and your intuition, I promise you, you're going to be okay. You're going to figure it out. And you have so many more people rooting for you and wanting your success, and including myself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm lost for words. I'm
So
so
I will make a
grateful.
big plug for you that if you're in Colorado, Colorado area, who knows? You could be elsewhere. If you want to fly Courtney in, she'll come to you. But she's doing the most amazing events through Gather and Bloom, some amazing products, and I think we're all hungry, pun intended, but we're like
Yeah.
hungry for connection. We're searching for those moments of love and pure joy and magic, and so. Your event series is incredible. And if you have a book club, a birthday, a bridal shower, just any reason you want to bring some people together, like definitely go check your stuff out. And if you want to tell people where they can find you, and we'll put it in the show
Yes.
notes too.
Yes, definitely find me on Instagram at Blooming Kitchen Co. You can also go to my website at bloomingkitchenco.com. And a special gift to those of you that were able to join and listen in today. If you are interested in booking a Gather and Bloom event experience, I'd like to offer 10% off a booking of your choice. So, really, really great deal. I hope you find interest in that. And yes, we'll be at the Golden Farmers Market in Colorado as well as the South Pearl Street. And then we'll pop in a few times in Fort Collins. So, we really hope to see you there. We're going to be having a giveaway basket through that we're going to be promoting from May to the end of June, and it's over
Yay.
$150 value of free product and a free ticket to a future Gather and Bloom event that you get to enter in for a drawing. So if you're interested in that, come find us at the farmers market, scan the QR code, and then you'll be able to sign up and get your name in the hat to win that when we pull the drawing at the end of June. So super exciting things, and I'm eternally grateful, Sari, for your coaching. And I will say, those of you, if there's any advice I can give, I'd say, like, don't be afraid to take the scenic route in life or your business. And yeah, some of the best parts of my business were from the detours that I did not plan. Same thing with things in my life. I think if we're willing to face our fears, um, then we really will be able to find light at the end of the tunnel for ourselves, and for those around us. So trusting yourself isn't always easy, but it is definitely worth everything. And I'm so glad I trusted myself to find a coach like you, Sari. And I'm just so glad I get to work with you. So thank you for having me on today. Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, so fun. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Woo! Okay. Okay. Clean myself up a little bit. Wow, that was an incredible conversation. I hope that really resonates with many of you, hopefully all of you, but at least some of you really needed to hear that. And I really wanted you to see and to feel and to know that it's possible. Like, what does creating a beautiful business that is in alignment with you and that allows for flow and getting you out of the shoulds and out of your head and more into your intuition and guiding from a place of vision. So I want to thank Courtney so, so much for being so open and vulnerable and sharing her story. It's just such a beautiful story. And I want to thank her for allowing me to be her coach for nearly 3 years, or it's just wild to me. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. If it feels good to you, go and check out her website, go and support her. As entrepreneurs, I really believe in supporting each other and really cheering each other on. And so go to bloomingkitchenco.com if you want to check out everything she's doing there. So thank you again. And until next time, have an amazing, beautiful week.